What's going on, YouTube? Harry is back again. Today was an interesting day. Why was it an interesting day? Well, it was my last day of classes. Yep, unless I go on to get another degree, which, the cards really, who knows what's gonna happen, right? But for now, I'm at a terminal degree. This is a doctoral level degree. Unless I wanted to get a PhD or some other kind of degree, this was my last day of classes. Like, forever. Which is really kind of crazy to think about, because I've been a student for a majority of my life, obviously. Not every year in my last 30 years, but for a majority of those years, I have been a student. And today, that is done. Now, I do have a couple of more things left to do. I have some finals to do and projects. But as of Monday, next Monday, I will be done. And I will be in my externship, and I will be adulting for a little bit. Not full adulting, but very, very close. So that's fun. That's kind of crazy to think about. It really is, because I don't have classes, and we ended with it was my least favorite class, 5:30 to 8:30 on a Wednesday night. What are they thinking? That is my bedtime, folks. But it's done, it's over with, and it hasn't really sunk in yet. But, big day. I also went to a therapist today. So this is the second only therapist that I've seen, and it was at school. And my reason for this, I know you can think well, you're leaving in less than a week. Why the hell would you go see a therapist? I had a couple of main reasons. One, my anxiety has been decently bad lately. Obviously with changing and all the changes and all of the new stuff coming up, it's been, I need to talk about it. I need to get my mind in the right frame. Two, I also really needed to I just wanted to hear what they said about how to approach therapy in the coming future. When you're not at a university or an institution where it's covered under your tuition, what am I looking for? What characteristics, how do I go about finding a counselor in my new area? And three was, yeah, I'm gonna have to find a new therapist, but I really only have this one viewpoint, and I don't want to be either grossly disappointed or see the other spectrum. And what am I really looking for in a therapist? And you kind of gotta date your therapist and figure out what it is that you like about a person, what you don't like. And this was one of the ways I felt like I could do this, for free, covered my tuition. I could date another therapist and see what kind of skills they brought to it and what I maybe liked about them and what I didn't like about my old guy, and kind of see. So I went and saw a therapist, and let me tell you what, it was actually really good. You can't play the what if game, because that's just not healthy. Thinking what if I would have just gone to this guy earlier? Would I be that more advanced? Would I have come up with the fact that I was trans 3 years ago instead of last year? You can't play that game. You really can't. But this guy, let me talk about this guy. He seemed pretty good. I really liked the vibe with him. He I felt from an academic standpoint, he was throwing a lot of books at me and quotes, and I could really connect with that. But on the other hand, I also know he was somewhat possibly conservative, and so for as much as I would have loved to have delved into the depression, anxiety, mother-childhood thing with him, I also didn't feel like I could ever get, it would have taken a while to get the trust from an LGBTQ standpoint. And so I really need to keep that in mind of what does that mean for me in the future, because that is a big thing in my life that I obviously would like to get going sooner rather than later, because I've been putting it off for 30 fucking years. And I need to realize that that's a very important aspect that I need to be comfortable talking about. And he did bring it up, but I really, like I said, I didn't have the vibe, and it wasn't something that I necessarily wanted to address today. I wanted to address those depression and anxiety things that I had been feeling and scared of, and the anticipatory acts of being closer to family and being in a new city and having to find a new therapist and navigate all of the waters of new job and all that stuff. And so it was really good. And there's a couple things that stick out. So, of course he brings up Brene Brown, which, heart, love her. She is so great. and I really need to rewatch and re-listen to some of her stuff, but you have to be in that right mental space, because when I'm in a good mental space, I don't want to watch her because she's going to make me cry. She's going to make me feel all the feels that I don't want to feel because I'm feeling good about myself. But I really need to do that. And so we talked about that, and then who else did he name drop? There was one point he was telling me a story, and he was like saying how like it's your move, Chief, and I was like, yes, like I was like, thank you for that. That Robin Williams quote from Good Will Hunting, one of my favorite movies. And so that's when I was like, okay, I like this guy. Like, a therapist just quoted The Therapist in one of my favorite movies. Hilarious. And I don't know, I think he did it on purpose, obviously, but I don't know how many people would actually get that, especially from a younger generation, because the movie's a little older. But that was pretty cool. And what else did we talk about? I mentioned how it's so hard to, like, especially when I'm meeting new people, and like I want to find those queer folk, and I want to find the liberal people, and like be like, and usually that's synonymous, right? But I was like, it just can be so hard, because especially like church-wise, like I'm not a very religious person necessarily. I wasn't, and yet when I moved here to the South, that's kind of what you do, is you go to church. Like, that's a socially acceptable way of like, hey, you're new to the neighborhood, where are you going to church? Like, that's acceptable. And so I found a church, and I was going to church here in the area, and I really like certain aspects of it. One, it got me singing and being around music for at least one time during the week. Two, it's at least, if anything else, a meditative hour, and that you set aside for your week to where you can be like, this is what I'm thankful for last week, this is what I'm looking forward to this week, this is where I can improve, all of that stuff, if anything else. And usually the sermon hits home a little bit. I don't really understand other aspects of religion, but that's not necessarily for this video. And so I was talking about how I'm not really sure, like, if I find a church in the north, like, I'm no longer like following this Southern culture thing. Do I really want to do that? Is that really who I am, and am I going to be going in that path? And I think I'm going to at least try, just to see, because it is a really good way to meet somewhat like-minded people, honestly. And there's a lot of bad things associated with religion, and I get that, but there's also some good things. And I think you can focus on the good, or you can focus on the bad, or, is it excusable? I don't know. Those are moral things that I got to deal with here. But one of the quotes he said, he's like, this is from my favorite author. I still need to look the guy up, but I really resonated with this of, when I'm around conservative folk, so family or whatever, or where I'm from in Northeast Ohio, I feel like the most liberal person in the room, which 100% is true. I feel like the most liberal person all the time. But when I'm around really liberal people, I feel like the most conservative person in the room. And like, that's also really true. Like, when I go hanging out with like a lot of my liberal friends, like, I can get behind a lot of what they're saying, and I am very, with the state of thing, I'm pretty liberal. But I am not blindly liberal. And I like to think I think for myself, and I fall in the middle of this spectrum. And it's so confusing, because I feel like I haven't found my people of like conservative and liberal. Not that that should guide, but it does kind of guide your relationships, as it is almost a moral, like, fundamental level of who you are, to an extent. Not saying like that's 100% accuracy, but it does kind of guide. You can expect, like, if a person is wearing a MAGA hat, you can kind of expect that they are going to be maybe somewhat racist, or somewhat like homophobic, or not as much of the social issues. Whereas if the person's liberal, you can be like, they're probably cool with the gay thing, but I might not be able to talk about the fact that I don't really believe in vegans, or whatever it is. And so it was just really good to hear that quote and to work through that. The other thing he told me that was just really nice was, he was just like, at the end of the day, what you're going to do is you call up your insurance company, you figure out where you can go, and he's like, you need to shop. You need to shop around for therapists and find the person that you connect with. And I was like, okay, like, I actually have permission from a therapist to shop around. Huh. that's kind of cool. Not that I needed permission to do that, but you know, it's a step in the right direction. Like, I can't imagine myself as, you know, a doctor being like, you need to shop around. And I imagine it in terms of, I 100% agree with that, and I will say that. Like, you can go other places, see, like, because I firmly believe that they would come back to me because I feel like I have that level of service and I am good enough. But it takes a strong person to say that, I think, because if you're anywhere near insecure, you're probably not saying that. And I know obviously he's not speaking for himself, but it was just really good to hear that, like, that's okay and that's almost expected. So we'll see. I got some good ideas. So it was just nice to get some of those worries out, and we delved into some other things with anxiety and whatnot, and that was really good to hear, a different perspective. He pushed me a little bit more than my old guy did, and I like that. One of the things that I haven't figured out, and I guess I probably need to figure this out, is I've never had therapy with a female, and so I wonder what that would be like, or even a trans person or a queer person. I don't know what that's like, so I wonder if that would even resonate more. I'm looking forward to exploring that, and I'll keep you updated. But that was my experience with therapy. That was my experience today on this wonderful Wednesday, April 24th, I think. And yeah, y'all, less than a week until I am in Columbus, Ohio. So crazy. My graduate school experience is slowly dwindling away, and I don't know when I'm going to say all the goodbyes that I want to or need to say for all of the amazing people that I've met. But we'll get there. We'll get there, and it's a very exciting time, very anxious time, and it's almost very good that it's happening so quickly, because otherwise I probably would be processing it and feeling many more feels. Anyway, I hope y'all have a great day. I personally am looking forward to my last week here in this beautiful city, and I will catch you all later. Bye.